Uncle, good evening, Uncle Kwesi Sinte. Good evening, Abna Abigail. Nana Kwesi Amankweti asani ya wote dia da nyame ase enyum ye be pa ho entoma eye the 1st of September 2018 e wo London abontenso enyum aye mpa ho entoma pasito radio kwa na ye bonyum Nana Kwesi Amankweti ya adodo na friend say eka de ne 4th album and na obe pa ho entoma eye next 2 weeks Shira eye bebre and kwa dia chame yumi eno shira Oba pa educhum wamro sa kwaba adonde kwa Bishop Mary from Poma Echampon Yamawakwaba Bishop here Oba Oyenya Minipa Osanto Nyom Nana Mankweti Oba Pa Enyumu and Toma Eye the 1st of September 2018 Hello, good evening, Alima. I hope you are okay, my dear. Today is another day we're going to meet Ghaswa to continue with child sexual exploitation. Yeah, my Charlie Vance, your name to near UK, Mawakwaba. And you win an Amakweti Pahu and Toma, I will London Abontenso, a year the 1st of September 2018. A year maybe that air been what you mean, no, the 1st. Bishop, the grace of God is still keeping me. Kitty Fabian, welcome. Just by the grace of God that we are not consumed. It is true, God has blessed all of us in diverse ways. Breaking forth, circumstances beyond my control. I wasn't able to come on today. Iranza Jesus, welcome. All those who came on this morning from one or two reasons I wasn't able to come on, forgive me and I apologize. Please, if you come share the video, we're going to talk about child exploitation, child sexual exploitation, the continuation, the final. The song says, whatever is going on in your life, thank God, because God understands what He's doing. He knows what He's doing, so thank God in every way. He knows what He's doing, so give thanks to God. Is it the marriage? Everything. Give God the thanks because He knows what He's doing in your life. Adumini is the grace, the grace, the grace, the grace. It's the grace, the grace, the grace, the grace, the grace of God. Abna Rosia Mawakwaba. The song says, if you do not wake up in the morning, how would you ask God? You are already God. Abna, we give glory to God. Elsie Akosia Boatia Mawakwaba is the chair, the sister and the vice chair of Ghaswa. Welcome. I am Pastor Nyamie Shiraye. It is true, God has blessed us. Oh, yes, indeed, we are blessed. We are blessed. We are blessed. Oh, the blessing of God is not just one, it's so many. Welcome, David and Jay. Domino.
We keep you alive.
Yes. Oh, indeed, we are blessed beyond. As we're waiting for our guests, we are enjoying ourselves with the song. It's a new song that will be launched on the 1st of September by Nana Kwesi Amankwetia. You went to labor, you came back with your child. That's a blessing. The blessing has got diverse ways. Oh, give God thanks in all things. Appreciate what He has done for you. Rebecca Edusay Mawakaba. Ricardo, welcome. Welcome. Good evening, Madam.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm late.
We were enjoying the song of the Nakasano question, so we'll just take it like that. This is Madam Angela. Yes, we were Madam Angela Appiah, outreach lead of Ghaswa. Last week, we all remember that we started with sexual child exploitation, and today we have our sister to really finalize everything. We've learned a lot. Last week, there's so many things that we did learn. Somebody called me and said, you people and Ghaswa, you're doing really well, because this is education. Welcome once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you guys are all okay.
That grace is keeping us. Once I can see my viewers, we can see ourselves. We know the grace has kept us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sorry I'm late. I apologize. I got stuck in traffic somewhere.
All
So
right.
there's no way I could have been here any earlier. Anyway,
Okay.
yes, like you said, we're still talking about child sexual exploitation. And we are likely to finish today.
Okay.
We hope that maybe sometime later in the future we'll bring it back again and give much more information. So for now, we're just continuing from where we left off last week. And just for a brief recap, last week what we said was, when we say child sexual exploitation, what we are saying is a child is any young person who is yet to reach their 18th birthday. And sexual exploitation is where somebody is being forced, coerced, or manipulated, or under duress, or any kind of condition that the person is not their will to be there. If that person is under that condition to agree to any sexual activities, whether that person is being asked to perform sex on somebody else or somebody else is performing sex on them, we call it child sexual exploitation. And also, and I mean, when we say that, it includes kissing, touching of the private parts, touching of the bum, the boobies, whether you're touching over clothes or under clothes, whether is penetration or non-penetration type of sex, where the two private parts come into contact with each other in nakedness or not, or if you digitally penetrate somebody, you finger them, you do anything to their body which is a sexualized activity which the other person is not in agreement with, or even if they are in agreement, they were forced to do so for another reason, that is sexual exploitation. So people should be aware of it. And also, we should all understand that the fact that the young person is under the age of 18 is sexual exploitation. The fact that the young person is under any form of force to do what they're doing is sexual
So the
exploitation.
child will be 18 tomorrow, and it happened today. The child is going to be 18 tomorrow.
It's sexual exploitation. If the child is 17 years and 11 months and 29 days, it's still
and 23 hours, 1 hour to the birthday is still. This is law.
And even if it's not, and the person is under the influence of alcohol, or the person is in a very critical position, not able to give consent, and you still go ahead and do it, it's still sexual exploitation. And one thing we should all be aware of as parents is that our children can be victims and they can be perpetrators as well. The victim is that person who is being forced. The perpetrator is the one who is actually controlling the other person to be involved in any sexualized activity. If you have a child under the age of 17, boy or girl, you have to make sure that they are not perpetrators. They are not doing it to other people. They might get themselves into trouble, and you, the mom, will be very hot. So, and you also have to make sure that they are not victims as well. And it could be gay type of relationship. It could be bisexual type of relationship. It could be heterosexual, type of relationship. So all of that is for us to be mindful of. And also, sexual exploitation include asking young people to expose themselves, expose their private parts. You know, some people just want to view. They are not really going to touch or anything, but they just want you to expose it to them. And also, sometimes when they want you to expose to them, especially online communication, when a young person is in touch with somebody online, a stranger who they've met online, they keep telling them they love them and whatnot. Sometimes they will ask you to send naked images of yourself to them, or while they are talking to you online. These days, there's a lot of video chats going on. They can ask you to expose yourself to them. And all of that is classed as a child sexual exploitation. Okay, last week we looked at, and we also said that the most vulnerable group is from 12 to 15 years old. And last week we looked at potential indicators, which I will stress that again today for parents to take notice of. Potential indicators include, for example, acquisition of material things without any plausible explanation. You know, your child has now, you're seeing a lot of things that your child has, and you're not the one who bought it for them. You need to find out where they got all of that from. Unexplained.
Can you come to this side a little bit for me, please?
That's
yes,
right.
More of that.
Is
yes,
that
thank
better?
you. Yes,
Okay.
because it seems like you are coming. Yeah, this is perfect. The beauty of God. Yes.
Okay. All right then. Okay, sorry about that. Right. So, unexplained absences to school. If the child keep absenting themselves from school without any, you know, you've dropped them, or you know, when they get to that age, they go to school by themselves anyway. But so you know the child is going to school, but the child is not in school. If that happens persistently, it is a way of trying to find out whether your child has been involved in any sort of abusive situation that they possibly don't have control over. They leave home without explanation. Your child leaves home, goes out, you don't know where they are going to, they don't really tell. And sometimes they leave way too quickly. And you realize that their phone rings, you know, it doesn't stop ringing. Their phone keeps ringing by the minute. And they receive lots of text messages. You don't know where they are coming from. If you notice that your child is going through all of that, please, as a parent, you need to get into it and find out what's going on with your child, because all of that are potential indicators of children who are either being involved in a gang to abuse other people, or they themselves are being abused. And then the other thing is they return home under the influence of alcohol, and then they begin to exhibit inappropriate sexualized behavior, and then they begin to increase their secretiveness. You know, that is why we keep saying, parents, try and be friends with your children, so you know what's going on. They can talk to you, they can feel comfortable and confident to talk to you at all times.
Mama Becky B says, yes, Pa, God bless you, Mama Angela. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you. So, I mean, in terms of moving on today, we're going to talk more about the prevention. I think last week we talked more about the effects on the children, the long-lasting, devastating effects, not just on the victims, but on the families as well. And, you know, just for you to be aware that child sexual exploitation is one of the serious abuse going on for our children in the UK and in fact every part of the world. So we all need to be very, very mindful that it is there, it is happening. Last week we spoke about grooming. Grooming is where somebody become friends to the child, to the family, just to reduce their inhibitions, and gain their trust. The person will gain the trust of the family and friends, not knowing that that person is actually abusing the child or preparing the child to be abused one day. So, I'm not saying people should start being suspicious about the friends they have, but it's just for you to be mindful and be curious about it. If you notice that a family friend, a distant uncle, or an extended sister, brother-in-law or sister-in-law, and mind you, a woman can be abusive to a young boy as well these days. You have the grown-up women who can just catch one young boy, 15, 16 years, and begin doing it with him. That is abuse as well, because that person is under the age of, so long as they're under the age of 18, it falls within the category. So it could be both ways. An older woman trying to do it with a younger boy, a boy trying to do it on a girl. And last week we spoke about the gangs. Some people form gangs, and then they find these vulnerable girls, they exploit them, they get them to get into child sexual pornography, get them into sharing sexual images for money. It's all over the place. So it's for parents to be mindful about to be mindful of that. So we are going to talk more about the prevention. And I think there's no other way of preventing this from happening to you or your family than protecting the children. Prevention is the best way forward, because when this happens to you or your family, your children, or your child begins to be the abuser of somebody else, it becomes very, very difficult to get yourself out of it. So most important thing is for prevention to happen, and for people to be aware that the harmful effect is not something that is likely to go away. If if a rape case is leveled against your 15-year-old son, or if your 12-year-old daughter becomes a victim of sexual abuse, it is something that is not going to leave the family anytime soon. It is a devastating experience for both the victim, both the perpetrator, and the families. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to try and stop this from happening to our children? And most parents are not even aware that it's happening. They will argue with it. They will create some myths around it. Oh, no, no, no. But please be fully aware that it's going on. It is happening. There are a lot of sexual predators around. So you need to make sure that you're educating your children. I think the first point is educate the children. When your child starts secondary school and they start going to school and coming back by themselves, and you give them the mobile phone, please make sure that mobile phone is being well monitored. Before you allow your child to sign up onto any social media, the advice is that sit your child down, talk to your child about sexual predators, sexual molesters, all over online. They pop up, they send free messages. They send messages and promise to give you free gifts and all of that. So what we are actually saying is that these sexual predators, they can be physically people that you know, they can be online, they can be people in your neighborhood that has spotted your child that you are not even aware of. They can be from anywhere. So first of all, there should be a proper education, which is the mom or the father's job to give to their child, for them to have a clear understanding and give them the indicators of who can be a sexual predator. Because when they come close to them, they start to look at them in a certain way. Even online, they start to send messages like, oh, you're beautiful, I like your voice. Somebody you've never met before in your life, you like their voice, they are so beautiful. And some of them, the children lie about their age to these people online. It could be that your child is a big 15-year-old who has met a 21-year-old online. They are telling them they are 18. That is also possible. So you have to educate your child to understand the dangers out there before you let them sign up onto any social media. Please have their passwords and be prepared to be going on it most of the time to try and find out who they are talking to and all of that. And like I've said before, you recognize that your child can be both victim or a perpetrator. You have to promote the resilience in your children. You know, some children are very shy and timid. They finish school, they are walking back home, somebody is standing in front of their door, they call them, they can't say no. They want to go. When they finish school, they won't go home. They will follow their friends to places that their parents don't know about. And they end up following some boys into their home. And then they get exploited. It's so easy when you place yourself in a vulnerable position, it's so easy for all these predators to abuse you. And then, like I said last week, when they do, sometimes it becomes difficult to show evidence if you report it, and then they sometimes get away with it, which is one of the issues we're dealing with. People getting away with all these moral, lifestyle. So please, parents, be mindful and make sure you're keeping your children safe. Build some resilience in them. When they need to say no, they have to say no. When they need to fight for themselves, they should be able to do it. So you need to encourage them. You need to talk to them about boys, especially when they start having their periods, the girls. Talk to them about it. Encourage them when to say no to people. And make sure that, parents spend time with your children. At the end of the day, how was your day today? So, after school, where did you go? Who did you see? Who did you talk to? All of that, I think we talked about all of that in the good enough parenting session when we did it a couple of weeks ago. So, through all of that, you'll be able to identify if your child is being coerced into any gang, or your child is being coerced to become a victim, or somebody is grooming your child. So I think the main thing is education, keeping passwords of their social media accounts, and keep monitoring it. And there is this case I've dealt with before. This is a practical example I just want to share with people. There was this case I dealt with before, where at that point the young person was 16 years old. Apparently, when she was 14, and I think she was in year 9 or so by then, in secondary school, she met somebody online, and they started talking. And then one day the person said, "Oh, can we meet?" They've been talking online, chatting for God knows when. So they agreed to meet one day. So she told her mom, "Oh, I'm meeting my online friend." This young person was very open and honest with her mom, that I've met this guy online. Today is the first day we are going to meet. So mom gave her money and said, "Okay, off you go. I'm giving you 3 hours to go out and spend some time with this your friend." The girl took the money and left. In fact, she came back 2 hours. Mom gave her 3 hours, but she came back on time. So mom asked her, "How did it go?" She said, "Oh, it went well," and blah, blah, blah. So that was the end of it. And then after a short while, this young person's lifestyle began to change. She started changing her clothes, wearing male people's clothes, wearing all these trousers hanging at the bottom, like what we call autofista. And then after some time also, this young person shaved all the hair. She started changing. All her friends started to fizzle away from her. People didn't really know what was going on. She went to school and told her teachers that she wants her name to be changed. And then she gave a male name, as that is the name she wants to be called. To cut a long story short, that young person started going through transgender issues. She wanted to change her gender to become a male. She went to a GP by herself, asked the GP to start to give her medication to change into they have this, I don't know, they have some sort of medication they inject you or whatever, and then your female, the female part of you start to diminish, and then you start to look like a man. Basically, by the time this young person had a lot of mental health issues, a lot of things started to go on about her emotional well-being. So by the time we got involved and started to dig and dig and dig and dig, basically what happened was, when she went out to meet this man that she's been talking to online, the man raped her heavily. And when she left that place, she had a thought in his head: if this is how a lady can suffer, I don't want to be a lady anymore, I want to be a man. And I tell you, it was a huge battle for the family, for everybody, for some of us working with her, it was something that we all had to grapple with. And she keeps changing her name. When I'm calling her name and I make a mistake and I call her by her female name, she will just blow it out of proportion. I have to make sure I refer to her as a he, and I start to call her by a male's name. And every day he will change. He will say today, call me John. The next day you say, no, I don't want to be called John anymore. I want to be called whatever. He kept changing his male name, was fighting the school to change her name on the records. She had been mentally derailed. She was not with it anymore. She would stay in a room all day, pull all the curtains in a very dark room, and just start to draw on the wall, draw on the tables, on the floor, everywhere. You notice that she was a very confused young person, So
That's bad.
This is somebody who suffered severely, and I mean, I'm no longer working with that case anymore, but I couldn't foresee at that point that this young person will ever get over it. She didn't choose to go the transgender way based on a sound mind and a sound decision. It was based on what she experienced. And this is somebody she met online. And one bizarre thing is, from that day that she met that person, that she went to meet that person physically, that was it. They never met her. That person never contacted her again. That was it. Meanwhile, they had been talking for like 4 months before, online and everywhere. But when they met and that thing was done to her, that was it. It never happened. The guy never contacted her again. But see, just that one act, the level of devastation to this victim, to the family, the mom and dad just couldn't get their heads around it. It was very difficult. So what we are saying is that, the awareness is more important for families. Protecting the children is more important.
Madam Angela, I think in this, don't you think the parents, forgiving, I'm not blaming completely, but we are all learning. The best one was them to tell her to invite that person home.
Well, that's a good idea. Because for
so
her,
we are learning here. I'm not blaming her because it has happened, but I think that would have been the best, because we learn from mistakes.
Exactly.
We are not here to judge, but we are learning. Because if she's at that point that she can meet the person, I think the very good thing was, okay, invite that person to the house.
Exactly.
So if he had refused, at least they could have seen the face of that person. Now they can't even identify.
Exactly. And this is a beautiful girl. Very beautiful. Oh, my God. And by the time we're dealing with it, she had no friend, not even one friend. All of them started to fizzle away when she started changing her lifestyle and her ways and everything. And you could see that she was suffering severe mental health. Severe mental health. So, some of us, when we see these things, you become so concerned to the extent that you even work beyond your own remit just to try and help this young person. So it is there, it is happening, and people should be aware. I just want to read some quotes from the Center for Behavioral Intervention. They conducted a study, and what they did was they conducted a study among the molesters, the predators, the perpetrators, those people who abuse other people. And these are some of the quotes that they gave. One of them said, "Parents are so naive. They are worried about strangers and should be worried about their brother-in-law. They just don't realize how devious we can be. I used to abuse children in the same room with their parents, and they couldn't see it or didn't seem to know it was happening." So this is somebody who has abused other children sexually, and this is their own statement. I'll read the next one. It said, "I was disabled and spent months grooming the parents, so they would tell their children to take me out and help me. No one thought that disabled people could be abusers." So this man was disabled, but still abusing these children, pretending to be needing help. But actually, when the moment they are out of the parents' house and these kids are with him, obviously, he was abusing them. Okay, parents are partly to blame. They don't tell their children about sexual matters. I used it to my advantage by teaching the child myself.
So is it a parent talking? Is it a parent talking here?
This is one of the child molesters talking. He is saying parents are partly to blame. They don't tell their children about sexual matters. I used it to my advantage by teaching the child myself. That means because the parents didn't tell the children, the guy just took matters into his own hands and started teaching that child, practical things about sex, and then the last one is parents shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about things like this. It's harder to abuse a child. It's harder to abuse or trick a child who knows what you are up to. So this is one of the child molesters talking. So I mean, if you see all these 4 statements from these child molesters, the common denominator is parents, 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 parents. Parents are naive. Parents aren't teaching their children, so we are teaching them. Parents don't, so it's the parents' responsibility. The parents was sending their children to go and maybe help this disabled man. Least this parent knew that this disabled man was actually abusing the children. So it's for the parents not to place their children in that vulnerable position. And then when they realize something is going on, they should be even more curious about it. Okay, so now what we're going to move on to is the safeguarding procedures. The safeguarding procedures. If your child has become a victim or a perpetrator, obviously, if your child is 16 and go and do it with a 16-year-old, both of them are in the wrong. If your child is 18 and do it with and any child under 18, it's a criminal offense. And your child, if it is reported and there are investigations that proves that you did it, that child is going to face the law. I'm not really going to talk more about that because the law will deal with it in that way. I want to talk more about the victim side of things. So, and please be mindful also, I just want to say this, that sometimes it can be a medical issue, which you would have to consider to deal with along those lines. I'll give you an example. This is another case I worked on as well. The young person was 14 years old. He was a male person, 14 years old. For some reason, nobody could explain. This is a very unique case and it's the only case I've ever come across like that. That young person had a very high tendencies of having sex to the point that he was abusing other people. He couldn't survive in a normal mainstream school because he would just grab a girl to one corner and start to do it with him. I don't know, the drive that this young person had was way too much. Eventually, he was sent to a special school, still didn't survive there. So he was placed into care, but whilst in care, he was being closely monitored. But what he couldn't get over is when the tendencies come over here, it's like, I don't know, I hope you get that. If it doesn't happen for him, he becomes very On one occasion, I remember I visited the family home, and whilst I was talking to the carers, this guy was upstairs. He knew I had come in, and I was going to speak to him, but I wanted to speak to the carers first. Before we noticed, we heard a loud noise coming from his bedroom. He was masturbating. He got to that peak point, and he was making that very high level of noise. But the carer said, well, he could masturbate at least twice a week. And when he's doing it, you can't miss it. the noise is enough to wake the whole house up if you guys are sleeping.
Wow.
So this boy, at that point, we were trying to take him through the medical route to try and get his tendencies to slow down or to reduce, because it wasn't okay. You could see that one was ill. You could see that one wasn't well. So that is also there. People can suffer that. So if you have a teenage boy, usually that is for the boys, to be honest. The boys does that quite a lot. When they are at that age and they start to masturbate and they start to, touch themselves and all of that, you need to be aware. Please speak to their GP about it and see if there's a way to try and slow down that sort of tendency. Otherwise, if they continue to masturbate at that age, chances are they are going to be a sexual molester very, very, very soon, because they get to a point they want to now pounce on somebody and do it on somebody rather than they touching themselves. So if you notice that your teenage boy is doing that, it's a way of, just be aware that you can start to seek medical help as well for them.
Then that boy can even raise the parents as the mother when it happens. He doesn't care who is available or who's around.
Yeah, I think with this particular young person, the mom, and the mom was a single mother as well. So this mom started feeling uncomfortable with him in the house. And I mean, one thing led to the other. That's how come he came into care, because, they just couldn't manage his care. So we make sure that wherever he was placed, he was the only one there. There was nobody there who could be at risk of his sexualized behavior. But, even the carers, because they were very strict carers and it was a couple carer, so they could manage. But at that point, there was strict medical, help going on for him. But that was way beyond the normal behavior of a teenage boy at that time. So I'm just throwing that out there for people to be aware that that could happen as well. So if you have a teenage boy, or any teenage boy who is going through that sort of thing, you can also, that is more to do with the GP side of things, which they will be able to sort it out. Right. Okay. Now, when it comes to the solution, what we are saying to parents is that please respond to your children. If your child tells you something, not necessarily that they've been abused, but somebody is giving them gifts, somebody is talking to them online in a way that the child has begun to feel uncomfortable about, which the child might not have a full understanding, but you as a parent, from that conversation, you know that somebody is trying to, coerce your child to the point that they could sexually abuse them. Please respond to the children. Don't just say, oh, fast and away. When they start talking sexual language, when they start saying something, please pay attention to them. Please listen to them. And if they mention names that you might be uncomfortable with, don't just throw it out of the way and think, papa we do on your side. Akunta we there be that. No, please. Be responsive to the children anytime. And don't make it look like they are lying. Parents do that a lot. Say, mommy, and then uncle can see the meeting and I so now me who ya na me ti ade din bi so. No. Please be attentive to the children, listen to them, and act on it. Be smart about it, be sensible about it. Don't just throw it on, and don't make it look like they're lying. Otherwise, they won't feel comfortable to tell you anything else.
Stepfathers touching their stepchildren. And then we cover it because, I said stepfathers playing advances over their stepchildren, and mothers want to cover their marriage or protect their marriage and ignore the children.
Yeah, which is very silly, but unfortunately we have that quite a lot. They believe their husbands more than their children, the mothers. They believe that, oh, my husband will not do such a thing, and they put their children in a very vulnerable position for them to be exploited. And sometimes they don't have anybody to talk to, they don't trust anybody anymore. And these men kind of carry on abusing them because they know they've won their mothers to their side. So what we are saying is, please, parents, respond. And some parents actually place their children there to be abused anyway. We know that. We know that. But I believe we're talking to sensible parents here who know how to protect their children. Okay. And like we said before, make sure you establish a good enough relationship with your child that you yourself can actually identify when your child is lying. And you know what? Let's say it the other way as well. Sometimes it's a lie. Sometimes a child might demand something from a friend or a boy. The boy might not give it to them. They can go out and lie against them. That is there as well. So your 15-year-old son might be lied against, or an accusation of rape can be leveled against, your son. That might not be true. However, we need to be mindful. That is why we need to teach the children what to do, where to go, where not to go, at what time. Because if you are around a certain place at a certain time and something happens, you can be pulled along as well. So, all of it, to prevent all of this, it all comes down to the parenting we are giving to these children. And, when it gets to the point where a sexual abuse has happened, where your child has been sexually abused, and your child reports it to you, to the school, to a friend, or whoever, and it gets reported to social services, to the police. I just want to talk through the procedures that we will go through, which, we will, at that point, we will be working, social services will be working with police, we'll be working with the hospitals, your GP, the family, everybody becomes involved in that at that time. And I tell you, from my experience, it is a very difficult time when such disclosures are made. So we all wish that it doesn't happen to us. We wish that it doesn't happen to our friends and our families. We wish that nobody close to us experience that. But if unfortunately that becomes the case, it's just for you to be aware of the procedures that we go through. So if that gets reported, let's just say your sexual abuse has been reported to the police. First of all, the police and the social worker will visit the young person, be it the boy or the girl. Nowadays, the gay are also abusing. There's a lot of gay abuse as well. The vulnerable boys are being abused by gay people. So that is also going on. So when I just want to throw it across, when we say sexual abuse, we are not just focusing on the children having had a sexual intercourse with another boy. It's everybody. It's the gay, the heterosexual people, everybody. So if a sexual abuse report is made to the police and the social worker will go out and talk to the young person, whoever is the victim, and everything will be recorded, what the young person says. Obviously, notes will be taken. Now, after that, there will be a decision by the police to arrest the alleged abuser. And if the alleged abuser, say for example, is a stepfather who live in the same family home, the stepfather will be asked to leave the home. Either they arrest him and keep him behind bars, depending on the disclosure, or he'll be arrested and be bailed, but will sign an agreement or something like that to say that they can't stay in the family home. Now, it's one way or another. Either the young person cannot go back home, or the dad can leave or will be asked to leave so the young person can go back home. Now, what we usually get is when the dad leaves and the young person goes back home, the young person gets pressurized by the family to withdraw the statement to save the stepdad or the dad. I've had cases which it was actually the dad who did it. The dad was asked to leave the home The dad left. The child was placed back home with a safety plan. Safety plan is where the social worker will go to the house and draw some plan with the family to follow and keep the child safe pending police investigation. Before we go back there again, the young person is telling a whole different story. Family, friends, aunties, grandparents, they all come in. They put pressure on that young person. They put pressure on that young person, and then they withdraw their statement. That we know that happens. But then cases that happens like that, then give it the next 2 months, the young person will come and disclose again. Stepdad or dad or uncle or whoever has abused me again. We get that all the time. Okay,
Appiah
so
said family members do this a lot in Ghana. As we said last week,
they do
it's
that a lot.
very common. Yeah.
They do that.
They will be involved in the school activities, get to know their cycles of friends. If they are going to a birthday party, don't just drop them off. Walk in and say hello to the parents and adults involved. Be protective and acknowledgeable of their environment. Yes, it is.
Very true. Very true. You know, all these parties, I forgot to even mention that. Thank you, Stephia. All these parties, when they get to that age, teenage years, then we buy skimpy dresses for them. You know, they want to look fancy. We drop them off to the party. We don't even know who is organizing the party. Then we go. We'll come back and pick them up in 2 hours' time. You don't know what has happened in 2 hours. At least get to know them in a way and get to know whose party you're sending your child to. When they are younger, we stay at the parties, don't we? You know, when my 7-year-old is, I will stay and, you know, be there throughout the whole duration. But when they get to a certain age, we want to drop them and go. And then that is the time we need to be more mindful, because at that time, they are growing and developing in a way that they are becoming attractive. You know, and that is when we need to give them much more close monitoring and make sure that, you know, they're safe.
Okay. Right. There's a question here. It says, what happens if a stepson pregnant a stepdaughter? What will happen?
How old are we talking about?
Our sister
incest,
is saying the age. If you can tell us the ages of those two children.
Do we call that as incest though? Stepdaughter impregnating stepson impregnating stepdaughter. Is that what the question is?
Yes. It's the step when the mother's brother child. The step is when that, like for instance, I bring a child, my husband brings a child. They are the step.
Then the two children.
Comes when I have it, yeah.
I think it will all depend on how old they are and whether it's we can call it a sexual exploitation. Whether both of them gave consent, they agreed to be in a relationship and they had sex and they are pregnant, or I think what we are talking about here is when somebody is forcing into a sexual activity. That is the main focus of our discussion. That is what we are saying is a criminal activity. That is what we are saying.
Not when they have the consent of each other.
Or when they are old enough to make their own choice and, you know, they've got to that point. So, yeah. Okay. So, let me go back to our safeguarding procedures. So when police get involved...
He said 16.
60. Who is 16?
They are both 16.
Oh, both of them are 16. So they are underage then. They shouldn't have done that. So then, because, you know, pregnancy is involved and it's my son and you know, the wife's son and the husband's daughter or whatever, then it will be for the parents to be aware whether it's for the parents to make that decision, whether it's something they want to report to the police as it's an abuse, because one person is, well, they are both young, so both of them have abused one another. Okay. Both of them are within the same, you know, range, because they are both under 18. They shouldn't have done it in the first place. So whether one person forced the other or whether both of them did it willingly, which is another thing to really investigate and find out. So I think this will be for both parents to deal with it and know how they can deal with it. I think that will be between the parents. Okay, I just want to go back to the safeguarding procedures. So at that point, we kick off with a section 47 investigation. This is a section under the law, under the Children's Act 1989, section 47 investigation, which means that the police has the authority to investigate the sexual abuse report to a satisfactory point, or to a point where they feel that at this point we can take no further action. And it will include, sometimes it's a bit of a long process, but within that, it includes something we call ABE, which is Achieving Best Evidence Interview, which is after the young person has been spoken to one-on-one, I mean, between the police and the social worker. The young person is now taken to the police station or to another location for a video interview to be done, which at that point, the expectation will be consistency. The same story that they said before, there shouldn't be any discrepancies. There should be the same story, the same description of how it happened and where I was touched. You know, they give a vivid description of what happened about the disclosure. I mean, when they were abused. So that will be the police evidence where they complete the video evidence. That will be their evidence to use in court when they go to court. And at that point also, the social worker will have a duty to arrange what we call the child protection medical. Child protection medical that should happen soon after the disclosure, actually. And depending on how or when the disclosure happened, say when the abuse happened. Say, for example, the abuse happened 3 months ago. Young person disclosed that this man sexually abused me 3 months ago. And then at that point, they come to report it. We could still arrange the child protection medical, but chances are the evidence would have diminished at that point. Yeah. So if it happened, it was reported soon after it happened, then there is always a hope that when we take it to the child protection medical, something will come out. It simply means seeking consent from mom or whoever is is a primary carer to the child, and taking the child to the hospital. There's a particular department in hospitals where they do safeguarding, where they do child protection medicals. So we take the child there for the nurses and the doctors to examine the child down below, or wherever they have disclosed that person, whether they did it through the anus or wherever. There's going to be a medical check to prove whether there is any evidence of that sexual abuse happening. So, like I said, this is something that this young victim will go through, which is not an easy task for them at all. It's not, at that time, they will be going through a lot of emotional turmoil. And that is why when it gets to that point, some of these people feel the easy way out is to withdraw my disclosure and just end the case. Because they feel that, all of these things that I'm going through, it becomes a bit too much for them. So at that point, these young people need a lot of reassurance. So if you're the mom, or you are the dad, or even as social workers, we need to give these young people a lot of reassurance. If they have been sexually abused, they have reported it, they are sticking to their statement, the police are doing their job, and they are going through. At that point, they start even getting threats. They start getting threats from friends, the boys' friends, or the abuser's friends and family members. And sometimes, the mom, even where they live, in the neighborhood, if the abuser is in the neighborhood, they start getting threats. So sometimes, the parents will just force this young person to withdraw their statement, and that's the easy way out of it. Otherwise, it becomes a very difficult process, both for the victim and their family to go through. So, at that point, there's a lot that's this young person will need a lot of reassurance and a lot of support from extended family. So that will happen. The ABE interview, the video interview will happen by the police, and then the doctors will carry on the child protection medical. Then the evidence is going to be used in court against the perpetrator, which sometimes these young people are asked to attend court. Social worker will go to court with them, or they might want to be in another room and just do a video link. They don't want to be inside the court themselves. So that happens as well. And as we are going through all these section 47, either the perpetrator might have been removed from the home. If the perpetrator is not at home, they might be still be detained, or they might be released on bail and expected to be reporting to the police station as and when. It all depends on the level or the severity of the disclosure. And maybe that perpetrator is known already to be somebody who abuses people anyway. So it will be for the police to decide at that point whether they will release him on bail or still keep him behind bars. But we're just going with the fact that the police might or might not.
Okay. Somebody's question here says, is that person's life not in danger? Like that's the way you were saying that when it happens, if it's in the neighborhood, people will start threatening. So the person is asking, is this child's life not in danger at that point?
Well, at that point, the police will put everything in place to protect this child and their family. I mean, because the family, if the family reports that, we've been having threatening phone calls, we have people knocking on our doors in the night, we have people throwing stones through our windows, anything, if you report to the police, they would do their best to put some protective measures in place. But sometimes all of this will be in place and people will still not feel safe within their own home. It becomes very difficult. Some families will have to flee and stay somewhere, or some people even decide to move from where they live, because at the end of the day, when that person is behind bars and you still live at that address, there's a chance that your life is at risk. The police, they do a very good job. The police will put everything in place to make sure that you're safe. They can put a marker on your property, a history marker on your property, which means that, as soon as something happens, they will prioritize coming to your house. Sometimes they can give you they can put something on your phone that if you sense danger, you can just press and it will link with them and they will come to your rescue as soon as possible. They can give you the alarm as well to keep in your home or keep with you. I think most of the alarms, you can walk around with them, go everywhere with them. If you see somebody approaching you in town or wherever that you begin to feel uncomfortable, you can just press it and they will come to you. So they will put all of that measures in place to try and keep you safe, and they will link you with other support services as well. There is the victim support, and there is the child sexual exploitation team. There is a team who actually deals with only child sexual exploitation cases. So they will be able to take you through all the support that you need. But I mean, at that point, it is still a very difficult time for every family. It's just for people to be mindful of that. Okay. So and all through that, the social worker will be very intensive as well. And that is the time that as a social worker, we need the support of the family. We need them to be able to share information. When it gets to that point, the family themselves become, there's a lot of conflict among them. People, one part of the family is at the other side, the other one is supporting or against, and there's always conflict. And by the time you talk to grandmother, you talk to grandfather, you're getting all kinds of conflict information. So it becomes difficult. However, the procedure still stands. The Section 47 inquiry still stands. There is the arrest, there is the ABE, there is the child protection medical, there is the social services intervention, and referrals can be made to other support services as well to offer support to the family. So that is the procedures. And at that point, we can refer the victim for counseling or therapeutic services. Usually, if the victim is expressing any mental health issue, anything, showing that her emotional well-being is affected, then obviously comes is the child and adolescent mental health service. They can get involved as well. So, all this I'm saying, just imagine that one act of sexual abuse brings about all these thorough process and all these other services involved in one family. And this family will be dealing with threats, will be dealing with the health side of things, will be dealing with the emotional, side of things. And it is a very difficult time for the family. However, we just want families to be assured that if it happens, please open up, please report it, please work with the agencies, and let's try and bring justice. Because otherwise, these child molesters will continue to work within our communities and molest our children and cause a long-lasting, devastating effect on these children. Now, there is the National Crime Agency, and they have a department which they call CEOP, C-E-O-P. And, as part of the National Crime Agency, the CEOP people, their job is the proliferation of indecent images of children, online child sexual exploitation, and the sexual exploitation of children overseas by UK national. So please be mindful. It's not just whilst you're in the UK. If you are UK national and you go to Dubai and you go and abuse somebody and they report it, the National Crime Agency will still deal with it. So it's not just on the UK land. Anywhere that a UK national finds themselves in and think that they can abuse children in any other parts of the world sexually and run back to UK and hide, it's not going to work like that. The National Crime Agency, this particular department, work to cover all of that. So, so long as it's reported, they take it quite seriously and they deal with it. And I will give the number for the National Crime Agency for anybody who has been through any such and want to speak to them confidentially. Is 0370 496 7622. 0370 496 7622. This is the number for the National Crime Agency.
493 0370 493
496, yeah, 7622.
7622.
Yeah. So this
and
is for
I know the vice chair of Ghaswa has also written Ghaswa's number there. So if you if you want to any advice, this is when you come into your own. Exactly. You can call Ghaswa on 075 981 54546. You can contact Ghaswa. Elsie is Elsie Akosua Boateng is the vice chair of Ghaswa, and this is our dear sister Angela Appiah, who is the outreach lead of Ghaswa. You may ask, what is Ghaswa? It's Ghanaian Social Services Association. She is an experienced social worker, and we started this last week, and we are we're coming to grand finale of the child sexual exploitation, which in Ghana, just said we are fight almost from Huedi. Or say fat in me, a kunu fat, just say, Yenu Kolane da rough at the end. And my wife will put money. Yenu Modasa. Papa na buba so left in the year was as was or so. I collect in the there's so many sexual.
That is why we mentioned the Clare's law last week. people should take notice of it. If you meet a new man or you start a new relationship, or if you are a man and you start a new relationship with a woman, if you're a woman and you start a new relationship with a man, you can use the Clare's law and get any information about the man if they have any criminal record that you need to know.
In
It could
UK,
be
Claire,
in
it's
the UK
Claire,
Clare's law.
Claire's law. So just go to the police station and say, I've seen Abner Josephs and I want to check. They'll tell you. Whoever you mention the name, so far as we have the date of birth of that person. So what Angela said last week was, if you meet a man, check from the police. Do a check, DBS check. And then they tell
because
you
the thing
so
is,
you know who the man is.
Among the sexual abuse cases that is reported, you know, there's a lot coming from stepdads. We get that a lot.
Yeah.
The stepfathers, they come in and they do it with their mom and they do it with their daughter as well.
Because in their mind, it's not my child. That is in their mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The child is not there. So they don't feel, their conscience is not telling them that they shouldn't do it. And the sad part of it is, like we said last week, the mothers don't believe their children. They feel that their children just want to, you know, disrupt their relationship. But at the end of the day, you know, like we said, if your child reports it or not, if a disclosure is made or not, that detrimental effect is still going to happen. It's not something that anybody who has been abused can get away with. You know, so it is something that we all have to be very mindful of, and just make sure that we're protecting our children. Like I said, if you put all the protective measures in place and it still happens, it's an unfortunate situation, but still support that child to go through, you know, the process and bring the perpetrator to justice. That's the only way we can get them out of our society, or we can try and reduce the level at which, you know, this is happening to other young people. So I will take questions if people have got them.
It says, can I bring a case that is far gone back? But the question was, it's in Ghana. If it's here, then I think I can even say yes.
Oh, yes, yes. If it's in the UK, I would say yes. Why not? By all means. Get in touch with
Ghaswa. Somebody who died 20 years ago, and they'll take that person to court.
Yes, yes. You know, I think with that one, it's just for people here to know that nobody can go scot-free. Like I said last week, it's not about if you will be caught, or it's when, because you will be caught at some point.
Yeah.
You know, so if it's in Ghana, the person can. I think now in Ghana, there's this I've forgotten their name. This women's group. It's like a women lawyers. They formed. I think so. Yeah.
The lawyers.
Yes. Something. They have done something now. Yeah. Okay. That, you know, they deal with things like that. So, and you can give it a try. You can give it a try. Report it to them, and see what happens. But I mean, if you have the time and all the evidence available that you can really present, I think it's worth giving it a go, and see if you know, somebody will actually give you some attention. You know, these days the way the social media works, it is even powerful than the media houses. So you know, and that could be a way that people will try to help reduce its occurrence, you see. So
okay, it says this has bring tears in my heart because I was so much abused. I was so much, and as you said, my own mother did not
Oh,
believe me. And she was always supporting the man. At the end of it, I was a stepchild. Finally, my stepfather slept with my own sister, who is a biological child of the man.
So, this is a man, obviously, who is sick in the head.
Yeah, it said the mother did not, because the mother was supporting, it gives him that energy to do it.
Exactly. They feel that they are the men in the home and they are the men over everyone. So they don't know where to stop. That's the mothers. We have a big role here to play.
Yeah.
Like I said before, be responsive to that child. If the child starts to say something, don't just throw them off. I'm really sorry to hear this by this person, that they had to go through all of this. And these are the men, if they are still alive, we probably need to start to ask them questions. It's quite difficult.
The other one says, at times you people think it's only girls that has been abused. My stepfather abused me as a boy when I was very young.
Didn't I say that before?
Yeah, so my own stepmother abused me when I was very young.
Stepmother?
It's not as a stepmother abused the boy. So the man went in with a son.
Okay.
So they were living together, and it was the stepmother who was
abused him.
So
oh my God.
The saddest, when I go back to my mom, she's so poor she couldn't even take care of me. So I just have to take it.
Oh, that is so sad. Well, I had to say, Joseph ni Potiphar's wife.
And the class said, "Any abusuani mponti yese no ye kakra no we de abusua pa papa yere pa wuti fie ho 24/7."
I don't know papa ni ntimi nya adwuma no.
E bi on ho fe.
And papa no no nya ade.
I know, as Angela said last week, say if you've been affected with this program, you can call Ghaswa for advice.
Yeah. I mean, because we're there to just offer some confidential advice.
Yeah, but he says with this kind, it says with this, I think he's so free. He said, "I'm free now to talk about it."
Yeah, and I'm sure it has taken him a long time to even begin to talk about it. But if he can seek counseling or seek some therapeutic involvement, that will be helpful. Is this person in the UK, because they can get counseling through their GP?
Because it's messenger, I don't know the number.
Because if they are in the UK, they can share that experience with their GP and they can refer them to counseling, which will seek to alleviate some of the because they might think that they are okay. I'm okay now. It's all over now. But sometimes when something else happens, it can trigger. It can trigger that thought, and they can start to suffer nightmares and flashback and things like that. So sometimes it's better to deal with it, get to the bottom of it, and then so long as it keeps coming back to mind, there might be a tiny little bit of concern there, which maybe therapy or intensive counseling could sort it out.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions?
I'm married, but it took me a long time to even go closer to my wife. So this is a man talking here because of abusive. But he didn't say, I don't know who abused him, but he said because I was abused, I find it difficult to go closer to my wife. So definitely,
sometimes.
So whether it's a man who abused him or a woman,
we don't know. But sometimes the issues we're dealing with today in our marriages, in our home and lifestyle. Sometimes it depends on what happens to that person years back. Marriages are being broken today because of some abuse that happened 25 years ago that, the other partner is not even aware of. But because we allow all of these social, devices to creep in between us, we go unreported, we cover it up. People grow with it and take it along into their future relationships. So that is why it is quite important for us to try and either protect or support the victims to go through the process and bring justice on themselves and make sure that those who are doing that faces, the consequences of their actions. So I pity this wife of this man, but I hope.
As you're saying it, among our people, you can't tell your wife or husband you were abused. At times, they think you've been used.
Yes, I perfectly agree.
In fact, yes, I agree with him.
I perfectly agree, because
I do.
you have to keep it as a secret. The moment you tell this man or this woman, very, very soon after a short argument, they'll give it back to you. They'll always use that as an excuse. In fact, they will use that to abuse you again.
So double abuse.
So sometimes you're better off just keeping it to yourself. It's so, I don't know, sometimes I don't know where we can work it out from. Because instead of that person being your support, giving you that emotional comfort, telling you, oh, it's all right, we're still in love, they will use that as a weapon against you. They will start to tell people.
Imagine about 2 or 3 people had sexual intercourse with you through rape. How would you say it?
How are you going to get married in the future and tell your husband that this happened to me 15 years ago?
I was raped by 3 boys.
So with this person also, they can get some therapeutic counseling and try and get over it, because sometimes the effects, they can demonstrate, they can exhibit the effect in other ways, the impact in
I will use this opportunity to welcome our dear sister Giftilai, and she's the woman that has the disabled child, and I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, and I thank some people who has already donated. Now the boy has got the medication for August and September, but we have October going. Some have started again. Please, if you have not, let's support our dear sister. Let's support her in this hard time of her life to also support papacy. So our dear sister Gifty, welcome to the platform. And we know that the Bible says, as you did not do it for a sister or a brother, let's help her. This is a time that she needs us so much. Kitwe bien show. So what dear £1 po ye beje dia man. What a £1 do Ghana yesika. Kitwe bien sha nti dobia benya no frɛ messenger ye de be ma no. No so ya masere kakra abba ye nua ba no. Abrabo.
Okay.
As we said, so some people are not Ghanaians, but they did. So as I'm saying, I'm talking about our dear sister Giftilai, who has the son with the disabled autism and all those things that some people have donated that are not even Ghanaians. That is really a great thing to do. That they did not check that, oh, I'm not from Ghana, I don't care. So I know some people are on, and what I will say is God will richly bless you. Those who are yet to do, God will also bless you.
Amen. 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 So that brings us to the end of the program for today. I know it will still be on Facebook for people to view and still bring their comments and make some contributions if they want to. The numbers are there. If people want to call, they can always call. If somebody wants to have a conversation outside of the air, they are free to call and do so as well. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next
time. This is private and confidential, so please, if it's counseling you need, call them. Nobody will know about it. Don't die in silence, as I always say. And don't die in silence at all. This is Pasito Radio.
Pasito Radio live now.
Thank you. Bye.
www.pasitoradio.com.
Bye. Thank you.
Pasito Radio, we keep you alive.
This is Pasito Radio. Thank you all for joining. At 10 p.m., it will be Prophet Richard Akayamba with the word of God and a time of prayer from 10 p.m. to 2. God richly bless you. And God, in the afternoon tomorrow, it will be Inspirational Hour with Deacon Kofi Boache and Sa, the young youth who is really doing a good work. So may God richly bless you. Until then, I say bye-bye, everyone. And thanks for watching. Keep sharing. This is an educative program. Keep sharing. Keep sharing. Bye.